Coping with anxiety isn't a viable option. Anxiety management isn't a viable option. Anxiety elimination is. And I'm living proof that anxiety elimination is not only possible, but it's possible to do quickly and permanently, so that anxiety disorder never returns. Coping with anxiety means that you will always have some underlying high anxiety. That isn't necessary. You don't need to have high anxiety in your life, and you don't need to learn to cope, or you don't need management techniques to cope with those high anxiety moments. You can be completely inappropriate anxiety free, free of panic attacks, OCD, obsessions, compulsions, depersonalization, derealization, or any of the physical or psychological manifestations of your high anxiety. Instead of coping with your anxiety, what we need to do is show you how to eliminate it completely. Now, to do this effectively, you need to do the exact same thing that every recovered sufferer in the world has done. Every recovered sufferer. Because every person who's had anxiety disorder and overcome it has used the exact same process to do so, without exception. But what is that process? Well, it's very simple. Anxiety disorders develop because the anxiety control mechanism in the brain, the amygdala, has become reset to higher than normal level of anxiety. And it's done this as a result of experiencing stress or some kind of trauma, bereavement maybe, or something like that. So what happens is you get the initial catalyst, the stress. This causes you to have elevated anxiety levels. The anxiety levels that you experience produce symptoms in the flight or fight response, so you get the breathlessness and the shaking and the sweating and those sorts of symptoms, the physical manifestations. And what happens then is that you become frightened by those physical manifestations and worried by them because they seem threatening themselves. This causes you more anxiety, which causes more symptoms, which causes more anxiety, and so on. And you're stuck in this anxious cycle. And the amygdala, the anxiety control mechanism in the brain, the anxiety thermostat, if you like, becomes reset to a higher than normal level of anxiety. And whilst you know consciously that it's wrong, your amygdala thinks it's behaving perfectly normally. It thinks it's responding to your environment and that your environment is threatening, even though your brain is actually reading threat from your symptoms and not from your environment. So if there's a tiger in the room, it would make sense for you to be scared. But when there's no tiger in the room, it doesn't make sense for you to be scared. And the only reason you are scared is because your brain is reading the signals from your body as things that it should be scared of. And that creates and manipulates the anxiety levels in your amygdala and makes you constantly anxious. It makes you develop an anxiety disorder. Coping with anxiety under this situation is absolutely unnecessary. You can remove it completely. That I promise you. But how do you do that? Okay, so as we've already said, the amygdala is responsible for this anxiety response. It is the thing that messages to the brain to release adrenaline, to go into the flight or fight response, and then your system builds these anxiety symptoms as your muscles, heart, respiratory system, digestive system all prepare themselves to either fight or flee from the potential danger. We need to reverse this. So what we need to do is we need to send your amygdala some messages that say that you are safe and that it can reduce the anxiety levels back down to normal permanently. But how do you do this? Well, the amygdala receives messages from the outside world through our sensory organs, our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, our skin, and all of these sensory organs feed back to the amygdala data it needs to make a decision about how it needs to react in your environment. So if a tiger attacks you, your eyes see the tiger, you smell, hear, sense the tiger in every way. That feeds back to your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind then says, is there a real threat present? A real threat? It says, yes, there is, there's a tiger, and we respond accordingly by either running away from it or fighting it. And what we need to do is fool your sensory organs into believing that your environment is entirely safe and that it can send signals back to the amygdala to deactivate it, to reduce its anxious reaction back down to a normal level, the level you were at birth, your birth preset. Does this make sense? So, coping with anxiety is absolutely unnecessary. Anxiety elimination is absolutely possible. That I guarantee you 100%. And as far as I know, we provide the only curative solution to anxiety disorders using this specific technique. Thanks for your time.